And we are live. Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I just hit my mic because I'm a professional. And so let's jump into the nonsense that exists in Amazon. Um, so we watched the first first three episodes. I'm a professional. I'm a professional.
Here's my 4-second review.
No! That was longer than 4 seconds. Consider you're out of here. But yeah, so we watched the first three episodes of season 2 of The Wheel of Time, allegedly Wheel on Prime, more specifically, and we have thoughts. We watched them three. We watched 3 hours worth of content in 6 hours because we are good like that. And it was fun. Not really. It was
Was it really only 6?
It was only 6 because we started at 7-ish, 7:30-ish, I think, and we ended at like.
No, we started. Wow, okay, different time zone. So I thought it was 8 hours.
Was it 8 hours?
How long is the video? Let's see.
Yeah, it was a long
Because
time.
from our end, we started at 2 and then ended at 10.
We started at 30 minutes after because we were in the
Yeah,
room.
okay, but we were still
waiting
here
some 30
officially.
minutes.
So.
Yeah, we were here officially, but we
Okay,
didn't
7.5.
watch for that. 7.5 hours for 3 hours of the content because transformative. No, we just had a lot to say. So let's just say it was a rough time for us. I went to bed tired, exhausted, and more so than I usually am at that late at night because it was like 3 a.m. when I went to bed, something like that. But yes, there were actually some scenes I thought were done okay. There are very few of them. There was some actual decent acting ability by the lady who plays Varen. But the story was so butchered beyond belief, I couldn't even understand it. So we were going to do our kind of top 5 per person criminal attempts at people's lives from Amazon. So I guess we'll start with Arturian since he's got his list ready to go. And yeah,
no.
Go for it, Arturian.
You're making me go first.
I'm
Okay,
making you go
so-
first.
Yeah, I'm still
Yes,
making a
okay.
backup list for if anyone else brings up my points.
So start with Arturian because I don't think he has it.
Number 1, and this is I've actually also voiced this kind of in the streaming watch. I hate the Xian-Chan armor. I hate it so much. It looks ridiculous. These face
That's fair.
masks, they're orcs, not insect-like.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. The face paint and everything was also weird because they're never described as having face paint. They're just people underneath it. Like the guy takes off his helmet. He's a blonde dude, blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just him. And just like, okay, so no face paint. Gotcha. But then they have like these
And
big
there wasn't-
grins, and I was like, I don't get what the grins are for.
The Shoshan are apparently a giant fetish army.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The show is a giant fetish, so if it's. But yeah, what else do you got, Arturian?
So,
I mean, I will
to
say
add
even
onto
though
the
it's
Xian-Chan.
ridiculous- Well, 1 second. From the preview of the Xian-Chan, the armor itself wasn't made horribly. Like some of it looked a little bit plastic, but it looked a million times better than like The Witcher Season 1 armor for the Nilfgaardians. Like it looked
But
well
that's
designed.
not a very high bar to clear,
It's
to be
not a
honest.
very high bar. Yeah, I mean trash bags that are melted onto armor. That's very difficult to beat. So, yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Like the design itself actually looked like armor as opposed to just like Elder Scrolls Online with like skin armor, where it's like, oh, it's a brace. It's just literally your like this skin tight armor. Anyway, continue on. Arturian.
Well, second, I also didn't like Elias's role in this season so far. He's tacked on to be a tracker, and I'm like almost certain that Ragnar did this because too many people protested at Elias being cut. So now he's just
Yeah,
put
that's
into
probably
a spot
fair.
that he doesn't really fit in at all in the storyline.
Well, because
He helps.
if Elias was used properly, then Perrin would be getting better, and we can't have Perrin getting better. He has to get worse.
Yeah, he has to get worse, and the whole little diversion of the wolves. They're actually part of Ishamal. That was just stupid. They're
Yeah,
arch
no, that
enemies.
was weird.
You mean the dogs? Because they're not wolves.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
dogs.
yeah. Good point.
I'm being kind to them by calling it wolves, but really,
I
indeed,
mean, I
they
don't
were
know if they
dogs.
deserve kindness at this point.
Elias wasn't a
But yeah, I can see definitely
Hold
where
on,
you're
hold on.
coming
Matt,
from.
you're really quiet for some reason.
me better.
Yeah, I think I can hear
Yeah.
you.
A bit, I guess.
Because I don't know, maybe
Yeah, you're fine. You're
listening.
fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
So the circumstance with Elias was the woke liberal first chance to reveal their inner racism. So the feral, animalistic, wolf-like people are black people.
Sounds about right. We already know that Rafe doesn't think highly of black people because he makes all the villains black.
True.
Fane,
Yeah.
freaking Valda, like they're all black.
But also, I think
What do you, how much do you bet
Elias
the dark one is
doesn't
literally
really
a
do
black
anything. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
guy? It's just like they're gonna make the dark one a black guy because dark means black. Don't you know? I mean, it's the same thing with like the Black Numenorians. The Black Numenorians are actually black people, not evil people. But okay.
That's just thought logic, yeah.
But yeah, indeed, putting Elias where he's now completely undermines the whole purpose of his character. He's supposed to teach Perrin about being a wolf brother, but I haven't seen anything even remotely like that so far.
Well, they merged the wolf sendings, like
Sorry, guys.
futuristic or past memorization of something. An event
Yeah,
that
yeah.
occurred, which was
We don't
weird.
see anything
Because it took a
related
second
to
for me to even
wolves,
figure that out.
right?
Huh?
It doesn't
Nope.
connect to wolves in the show.
Yeah. You didn't even say it's a wolf brother thing. It's just a thing that he does, and it apparently is to do with yellow eyes. So if you meet somebody in the world that has yellow eyes, apparently they can see the future, past, present, all that jazz.
Well,
There was
Not the future.
remark number 3 that
never
I
know.
hated.
oh,
Evil,
well, we don't know.
visions.
That's true.
So you were saying Arturian?
I said that that was number 3 on my list. The visions of Perrin.
And I get that they were doing the sending, and I mean, to be fair, how they were doing it is how I would imagine the sendings to some extent, at least for the viewer to understand them. Because, like in the books, the sending was like a tree, a flower, a brook, a grass, and then somehow Perrin can like translate that through his brain, like Google Translate, and like, oh, somebody walked down the street here. Like, there'd have to be something visually different for us, the viewer, to understand what's going on. And I think they did that okay. But what they did is they did the particular instance, like the flicker part. Instead of doing flickers, they just showed the thing with the flies, and that's what we got. Like that was it. But the thing is, that happened outside of the wolf aspect of things, so it doesn't make much sense for it to be tied to Perrin when that, first off, it was a Rand point of view, but Rand's not there, so that doesn't make sense. But then why not just cut the whole thing out? Like it doesn't hold any effect except to force Rand to channel. That's literally the only effect of that slot. Everything else doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like, oh, people died, what else is new? The flies being there is only for the flashback sequence, but we didn't get a flashback, we got a vision. And the fact that Perrin sees it, it's not in the real world. He should recognize that it's not real, but instead they're like, wait a minute, guys, don't go over there. Like, it's just like,
No, but didn't you hear Elias says don't mistake fantasy for reality or something? So,
something like that.
Yeah.
so what we're saying is don't mistake this show as reality because it's just a fantasy.
could be.
Yeah.
Also, how did the wolves get inside to see that?
They didn't. There were no wolves there.
Wolves.
The wolves sensed it from 100 million miles away, and then they sent it to
I
him.
see. I see.
It's like their AOL mailbox.
They
You've
have
got mail.
magic. Okay.
Also, the wolves would have avoided the Mithril, right? Like they don't
No, I
like
think they hunt
being
them
around.
down.
Avoid Murdral. They would lose the whole pack to kill one because they're the
Exactly.
Neverborn.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
hunt them down. as
Same
if
thing for
that's
Trollocs.
all that matters.
Trollocs, the Twisted Ones, and the Neverborn. Those are the two that they will, but they will go even harder for Darkhounds. Darkhounds is the only thing they'll go harder for. Dark Friends they don't care about because they just smell like humans,
I mean, they are just humans.
evil humans specifically. But yes, like they don't care if a dude's beating a kid in the middle of the street. That's not a wolf's prerogative. But if it's a Trolloc attacking a kid, they'll just go ham on that Trolloc because they hate the Twisted Ones, but they hate the Neverborn more. But they hate the Darkhounds even more. The Shadow Brothers specifically.
Okay.
But yeah.
That,
But
that makes sense.
they say multiple times in the books that they will lose a whole pack to kill one, which is why when the last battle hits and there's like a whole army of Darkhounds, we're like, oh no, the population of wolves is about to disappear because there's not really a way for them to kill them, which I think is really silly, but it is what it is.
Well, the one
I feel
thing
like
plus, though, is the attacks on Rand. Remember
Can't they just tear their heads off, right? Wolves can do that, surely.
well, for one, Darkhounds are much bigger than wolves.
I don't know.
Two,
I was talking about the Murdral.
Or the Murdral? Well, again, there's the iffiness on how to kill a Murdral because some Murdral, if you don't kill him properly, then you don't get that. But also, I don't
Chop
know.
the head off and wait for the sun, I guess.
Well, I don't think wolves are carrying battle axes. So they can chop someone's head off, but maybe they can bite it off.
They can bite it off, probably. I don't know.
I'm just
Rip it
imagining a wolf brother is now a wolf standing on two legs carrying a battle axe.
Yeah. And they can just tear their Murdral apart. Surely that's
Furries.
possible.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Well, no, they lose a bunch of wolves in the process, sure.
Yeah,
But it's perfectly doable, I think.
maybe. I don't know the logistics behind that, but it doesn't happen that way anyway. What else do we have? Archerian, you had something else? Is that 4 or 3?
Yes. That was 3. Number 4. I didn't get the timeline. Like Liandrin is now a mother of an old man.
Yeah, wow.
I
That
think that's
makes
supposed-
no.
I think that's Rafe's attempt at explaining that Aes Sedai live really long time
Hmm.
and stuff like that, and apparently being a mother is apparently a bad thing.
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is you sacrificed your family for a career.
Hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Leandrin's gonna be with
That
Rand.
obviously made Liandrin extremely happy.
What if Leandrin?
Right.
Yeah, we see that.
No prediction. Leandrin's son is a channeler.
Seems unlikely given his age.
Yeah. Usually
Well, she's been
people-
drugging him. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Would
well, that
be
could
the-
work.
But even the drugging aspect, a channeler's life, like he wouldn't look that young. He wouldn't look that old.
That's
He would look
book
much younger.
law.
Well, no, maybe it's just really weak at channeling and therefore ages faster, I guess. Because
Would be
uh,
the perfect
Maybe it's the
diversion.
curious case of Benjamin Button, and he's actually
Oh,
going to get younger over the show.
Well, maybe he's been gentle, but and whatever. But
that could work.
He would just mope around and be like, "Kill me." That's all he would do. Like,
Yeah, but he can't do that because he's old.
don't you tell old people what they can and can't do?
Okay.
What do you say? Old people can't die? Are you kidding me? That's like
No, he
that's
can't.
not-
He's too weak at the moment to kill himself. I
I'm
guess.
too weak to die. Wait a minute. Just stop breathing.
But,
I don't
for
think that's
the
easy.
Leandrin's son is
showing
mad.
how old they can be, they could have also started with introducing Katswain. Because now I'm
Yes.
just wondering, how old is Sijuan? I knew it.
Matt really doesn't like Catswain.
I know.
I actually don't mind Catswain. I think she's stupid in the books to some extent, but she's actually pretty smart and a little bit of wise streaks in her. But
She's stupid, but actually smart.
She's
Well,
a wise
like,
one.
she's doing it right. She's just doing it wrong simultaneously. Like she's trying to treat all people the same way. Like this is how this is how I treat young troublesome boys, but not taking into account that it's not a one size fits all. There are like the guy who's a young troublesome lad, but it has also the entire world stapled onto his back. You can't treat him the same way as somebody who's like Matt saying stealing pies from a windowsill. You can't do that. They're
Mhm.
very fundamentally different things. So in attempting to solve the problem by teaching, because she's trying to teach him things, to be polite, to be strong without being cold, like to bring warmth back into him. And later on in the books, she wises up to these things. When she gets exiled from his presence, she gets wise to these things. She's like, I didn't do this properly. So she kind of understands that she did something, but because she is old, because she's pretty powerful, and she's a legend among the Aes Sedai, she gets a big head, and that's ultimately her own downfall in the court of Rand. So I like her, but at the same time she's infuriating. But I mean, you could argue that that's just how the women Robert Jordan made are. But then I would say that there are certain ones that aren't infuriating, like Min. Min's not infuriating to me.
Min is
She might have a
great.
moment or something where I'm just like, that was stupid, but
Well, we have to
Everybody-
specify here bookmin.
Yeah,
Bookman.
Bookman. True.
not
Math.
not
not
not the construction worker Min who can just
Mhm.
bore a hole through it. This is like how many weeks or months did it take Matt to get like one block out of that, and then she comes in and like 20 of them are gone. It's like
Well, she used kung fu.
Maybe that's actually part of the time skip, and Matt did the first brick in regular time, and the other rest was in the 5 months times.
it's
Skip.
possible, but that means the timeline's all jacked up. Maybe it's like The Witcher. Like it
I
doesn't
mean,
make
the
any sense.
timeline was fucked
You
up
mean
from the
they are
beginning.
on the timeline for this show?
Yeah, I was like, wait, there's a timeline? What? You're telling me these were all random events that happened at some point between 1 and 1 million? What?
I mean, 5 months in the tower, and we
I was
still have.
wondering, maybe they took Min's special ability to see things and actually made it like split ability. One of it is to see things, and the other half is to dig really, really well. For some reason.
Yes,
bother.
but that of
But
course
no-
dilutes Min's visions so that they're not always true, I guess.
Well, the fact that nobody noticed that there's a spoon missing from his meals. Nobody ever thought like 2 spoons.
Maybe they
Nobody
forgot.
ever. They did not clean spoons in this world. Like, do you not clean your silverware when you clean your plates? Like, are you guys just swapping bacteria between people all the time? Like, is that
No,
why
the White
everyone's
Tower
dying?
just has like 20 million spoons, so they don't miss
Well,
one.
they treat metal
Yes.
spoons as disposable plastic spoons. They just throw them away.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
To be fair, I
can
think that
see
might
happening.
actually be the logic that they were thinking of.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, Tarvalon's freaking spoon industry must be booming with how many they're buying every day. I mean, that's what, roughly 3 meals a day, maybe 2, depending on how they do things. But let's say 3 meals a day times however many people are in the tower, which is all the servants, all of the warders, all the Aes Sedai, all the novices, all the accepted. Do that every single day with throwaway spoons, you'd be going through millions of spoons every year easily.
Yeah.
So
But they
I
just
mean,
catch the spoons and remelt them.
Yeah, they have the
They're
melting thing in
that's
the
how they
top,
kill
right?
bacteria. It works. They have a matter converter down in the basement. That's what it is.
Well, I mean,
That's what the old
No, they
dudes do.
just use the same thing that they use for the melting down rings.
to
They
be
just
fair,
throw their spoons in there.
I look at like, it's not coming back. We're gonna melt it. I'm like, why don't you just give it to the next person?
the spoons are made from the melted down Aes Sedai rings. There we go. It's like,
It's just a golden spoon, and it still has a better use and looks prettier than the original use. But what was your next one, Otarian?
Okay, the last one. I'm on the fence because it's well, I really dislike the casting for Elaine, but it's minor in the grand scale of things.
Why did you
Hear me
dislike
out.
the casting?
I dislike the casting because she doesn't strike me as a royalty, and she also doesn't make me think that she's Andorran. like the way that she reacted to Egwene walking in, like, well, I'm your princess. Huh? Huh? That I don't
Yeah, but I
imagine
don't
a
think that's
snooty
casting.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a
That's
casting. That would be an acting.
that's
and directing.
writing and acting
writing,
direction as
acting.
well.
I mean, casting wise, I thought she was okay, but she gave off Harry Potter vibes more than she gave
Well-
off anything else.
Also, to point out, if Morgause barely remembered the two rivers, why would Elaine even know about them?
Remember, they have
Uh,
they know about them, but I mean, I think Morgaze's learning of the two rivers was so long ago, where Elaine's is more
So
recent.
her reaction in the book is like the two rivers. Way on the west, like it was some sort of pasture on the perimeter of our.
Well, to be
Yeah.
fair, in the books, Elaine says like I had to learn all of these areas. Like I had to learn about your customs. I had to learn about your economy. I had to learn all this stuff in preparation to become queen. So she does know about the area.
Morgause barely.
They don't know about her though.
I'm pretty sure that it's like that one like in the big volume of material Elaine had to learn. There's going to be 4 sentences. There's this place called Edmund's Field in the two rivers across this river where we don't even acknowledge.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the wool and tobacco that comes from the two rivers is like a huge portion of the economy of Andor. Like it's all highly sought after, but you have to go to Andor to get it. Like I think it would be
also-
something you'd pay attention to. Be like, I'm sending merchants.
But we see her reaction to it. It's like that's why I wasn't.
which
I
is
mean,
kind of also weird because simultaneously it's a super important region for Andor, but
Yeah.
also they don't send tax people.
Do you think?
I
You
mean, to be
think they would
fair,
have
they wouldn't get very much
have
there.
to tax people? But
Fair enough.
I wonder if Jordan ever asked me like if they had this big economic thing going on with the sheep and with the tobacco and all that. Why wasn't there like some Andorian troops there on their border just in case they were getting raided for this stuff or whatever? 'Cause
Well, they are in a very, very limited location. They're not a military strategic importance. They have one entry into the area, unless you want to go through the Mountains of Mist, which everyone believes is cursed or ghosted or supernaturally.
Well, you could also there's a cliff in the south. You could maybe
but later in the
which
book,
troops that way go for it.
refugees going into the two rivers.
it's a pathway.
I mean,
Right.
what will you gain? Like they send people to Barillon. They send a tax collector to Barillon. They send it to them because the Mountains of the Mist, where they have the gold mines and everything, where they make a lot of their money. But
Yeah.
the two rivers doesn't hold any particular importance that would require massive protection, because normally, without the Dark One intending to attack there, no one has any reason to go there to attack, or even take over, because if an army comes in and invades and burns the fields, they don't get the goods. They kill the sheep, they don't get the goods. So it doesn't benefit anyone to take over.
You know what? Take the wool. They go in and take the wool. I mean, if I were a brigand commander, I would be going to two rivers and saying, "Look, I would take their stuff," or I would say, "Look, instead, I have an offer you can't refuse." This is my townie coming out. I got an offer you can't refuse.
No, you can't refuse.
I don't want to show. I don't want to belabor it.
Let me use a Disney analogy for this. So
Okay.
let's assume the two rivers is Pixar, and Disney is the invading force. They show up. They take over Pixar. Pixar is now no longer good quality. See how that works?
Good point. Yeah, I'm sold.
So when you get rid of like John Lasseter and stuff, because I had talked about this a lot in my Ariel video, because Pixar is just not the same without John Lasseter. John Lasseter goes to another company, which I believe is Illumination, and they are doing phenomenal, because it's all the people who are producing it. They know the ins and outs. They know the secret techniques. They know all the little things and details that make their quality what it is, and what it is makes it highly sought after.
Yeah,
Disney
Well,
shows up, or
Conquest
an
still
invading
works.
force. Well, you can conquer it. It's just the quality is going to degrade. It's going to go less in value. It's going to go less demand. People aren't going to want it because you're making it wrong. It's like, this tobacco doesn't seem to taste as well as it used to, because it wasn't grown right. They didn't use the right fertilizer. They didn't, have it out in the right season. They kept reusing the same
No, but
plot.
if you conquer and keep the same people on the work,
You could, but you're not going to get a whole lot of effort from people that you take over.
It wasn't grown in fields not fertilized by dead Manetherians.
Basically.
Nice.
So there's some sound reason to it. Like if you have a very smart ruler who's sending an invasion force to Andor, or somebody who's well versed in economy and whatnot, they're not going to just go attack this place. What they would do is they would take over Andor, and then send tax collectors. That's all they would do, because that's not going to disrupt the economy. But on the second side of things, there's
Though I
not a
suppose
gold
you could
economy
take
there.
Berlon and set up a base there.
You could. You'd have to
And then-
intercept every merchant that comes through. But then merchants
Yeah,
will
yeah.
stop going, and then you have problems. So supply line's going to get screwed one way or the other. But
Just set up a toll
ultimately,
gate. I don't know.
yeah. But ultimately,
Terran
like
Ferry.
you're not going to get gold out of the Two Rivers, because the Two Rivers doesn't have a gold-based economy.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
a barter economy. So you're like, I'll give you 3 things of barley, 3 bushels of barley for 2 dozen eggs, or 36 eggs, or 100 eggs, or whatever the value would be seen amongst Watch Hill, Devon's Ride, and Emmons Field, and maybe even Tar and Ferry. But you're not going to get the value of gold, because they don't have a gold economy. Even if they have gold coins, they don't have a gold economy. Which is why I always thought it was really strange that you got Bran Alvear running an inn that only ever sees usage when people come over for food, or if there's a merchant, peddler, or something like that. That's the only time you see any actual action. But that only happens a
Probably
couple times.
the middleman when it comes to like good.
Maybe he also runs a farm as a side job. I don't know.
There's no talking about him running. His family is solidly inside Emmons Field.
But
So I don't. I mean,
But how
his
dense?
wife makes more money probably than
Emmons
he
Field?
does from making
Like,
food.
like,
It's moderately dense. It's not like massive population. Like you could easily be in a couple hundreds without going too low, but it could also be up in maybe 1,500. Like it's not a very big place. But when I did I don't know if I ever released it, but I did a breakdown thing when I talked to the guys at White Cloaks about like basically a pie about ethnicities, and like from Manetheren being a multicultural place, and then them coming over with only a remnant of the remnant, and we broke it down. Maybe 5,000 people out of the million that lived in Manetheren would have survived, and then that 5,000 people had so many different ethnicities, and they would eventually bred out all the extreme sides of ethnicities. There'd be no just white, no black, no Asian, no Indian. It would be like a mixture. It'd be a mixed race essentially, that would come out of it, and that's all they would have. But then the percentage of the population that survived, because if 5,000 fled, you have old people and children essentially, with a couple adults, regular adults. Well, old people will die in the cold crossing the Mountains of Mist. Misty Mountains. Wrong one.
Same thing, really.
Are
Same thing.
over.
We get it on Jared. We get it. But yeah, so we'd have people die on the way over because of the cold. Old people don't do really well in the cold. So you'd lose a couple hundred probably of that. Then you have a bunch of children. Well, children like to move a lot, whatever. So you might have a couple of them fall off the cliff or something like that because it's very narrow passages. Kids can be kids. So there might be losses along the way, attrition, whatever. But I was like, even granting that they would lose people, but we're not going to count it as losses. We're going to bring the full 5,000 down. You've got 3 villages, and in 1,000 years, how many generations can you go through, and how big should they be? They should be massive from generations, because they're the kind of families like, hey, we're bored. What do you want to do? Let's procreate. that's
Yeah,
the only thing you
that's
got.
fair.
Like,
no, but
I mean, there's
have
not
families
much else to
create
do,
more
is there?
yeah,
Yeah.
realistically, they wouldn't, because in that sort of medieval setting, half the kids die before they can be adults.
Exactly.
Well, there's that, but we don't have a history of that period having losses of young folks dying young. They don't have that level of realism in
Wasn't
the world.
there a
It's
few
never described
years ago from the start where they had rough winters or something and the
We
crops
had rough
failed?
winters, but they said we stubbornly dug our heels in and we kept on through it. Like they survived. They probably lost
But
somebody.
did they survive as a people, or did everyone survive? That's kind of a big difference. I'm not
You
sure.
kind of have to assume that
I'm assuming some people probably did die. I'm not going to say they have perfect immunity, but they don't have anything in the world building stating that, oh, the average lifespan's 40 years old, or oh, these kids typically don't make it. Like, we don't have that world building, so the only assumption we can run with is that they didn't lose them. They don't have a mass grave burial area saying this is from the last couple of
You
years.
can equally assume it's like a real world would happen in the real world where all these losses would have happened.
But there's so many things that don't happen in the real world that happen in this world. That's the thing.
But
It's
oh,
we lost a Tyrion.
the dark one has
What?
struck again. What's already
I thought it was his singing finally ended it, but
Yeah, copyright strike.
and thus
he's been
alas,
dragged into the
Tyrion, I knew him well. There he
he's been
is.
dragged into the YouTube dark room.
But yeah,
Sorry,
like,
my dog interfered.
your dog's like, now cut it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I when we did the breakdown, we're just like, how many people could possibly exist per place? Devon's Ride, Watch Hill, and Embers
Oh,
Field.
I do want to point out though, Jordan makes it a very dark world. It's so that's
It's
where
harsh.
you assume
There's
these
losses,
deaths happen. And
There's
then,
orphans. There's lots of things happen, but the problem is to generalize it. It has to be more specialized around like a famine, a disease, a specific thing. Just having a bad winter, which happens often, like
Well, no,
they have stores.
life
Just means they have
sucks.
life gets hard. Yeah, life will get sucky for a while until the next harvest or
No, it
something.
just sucks in
but then it
general.
can bounce back. Well, I know, but I'm saying that we can tell because they're saying it's an extra long winter, so we can't plant things like we normally would. It's an extra long summer. Everything's bloody hot. Like it's an extra long. These are anomalies to what they normally have, but they still are trudging through them. So what we don't get a percentage of death per whatever, but I was saying even if you were granting no deaths, no tragedies, no nothing, and these would be your population. 5,000 people found three towns or villages, more like, and they were to populate for 1,000 years. Because we have families like they have when Perrin comes back and they go to the White Cloak camp to rescue all of the people like Abel Coffin and all that jazz. Or not Abel, the rest of them that were up in I believe it was Watch Hill, and they're running away or whatever. They basically go to stop at this one place. Is the Alcine farm or related to the Alcines or whatever? Like Will's their cousin or something. But it's basically like a homestead where it has the mom and dad, the kids, their families, their kids, like all on one farm. Like there's a lot of kids. And if they didn't live very long, you'd have a lot less kids than that. Like there were like multiple families and there was easily 20 to 50 people there in one family on a farm, which they would need the hands to help with the farming aspect. So that makes perfect sense. But if you're doing that per farm, you're getting like 1,000 people, or maybe if you were to go extreme, 2,000 people per village. 2,000 people doesn't sound like a village. That sounds like a freaking town. But you'd have 2,000 people per, which is 6,000. Well, a remnant of a remnant, which is a percentage of a percentage, and you keep going down, they should not have stayed the same size population. Every other population in the world boomed. Why would theirs be the only one that didn't? It just doesn't make logical sense from a mathematical standpoint. So that was kind of like the thing where it's like we don't know the variables because they weren't described because they're not particularly important to the story. But ultimately, that comes down to what would happen in the two rivers. Is it important? Does it have enough things? But they'd be using a bartering system probably more often than not. And if they're using a coin-based system, it's a coin base that you're paying Susan over here for a goose, and then you go to the next person and they pay you for something, and then you'd basically get your money back that way. So you might as well just use a barter system. Like a coin system wouldn't make much sense except for with the merchants specifically. So however the village would operate, we don't have enough detail on that. But Tyrion, you had another one. I think.
Sure,
I
I
think
can
that was
add a
5, right?
sixth. That was 5. Yeah,
So that was 5? Okay.
that was 5.
All right, Sage, what you got?
Yeah, so the only overlap there was the Leandrin situation, which was weird.
It was a waste of time, in my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah, where to begin? I think let's just start with a relatively big one. Nynaeve's accepted test
Oh God.
was
Oh.
completely shit in the show.
I didn't see that one coming at all.
Yeah.
Like
I mean-
the story equivalent, a side by side. There were certain things they did where like, oh, that makes sense. They didn't follow the books entirely, which I thought was strange
Mhm.
because they're all about the nudity, but then when it's like she has to go in nude,
No,
and
no,
then
because
get
that's
clothes,
the male gaze. You can't have that.
they've been giving us freaking nudity left and right everywhere
Well, no,
else.
but that's only
This
old
is the
people.
time they get, yeah. This time they get a pair. Yeah. Well, are you calling
But,
Rosamund Pike?
I mean,
Yes.
of course, only the last bit was vaguely similar to the book. But even then, they missed the entire point of that segment and made it everyone gets killed, she has to go from anger. When
Yeah.
it should be, she wants to stay in an ideal version of the world for her, or go back to the imperfect reality that might end up like that, but also could not. It's,
You know what I
it's
was
that.
expecting them. You know what I was
Mhm.
expecting them to do, because they're Amazon, they're stupid. But you know what I was expecting them to do? I was expecting the portal to open. And Neo comes in and just says, "It's just a simulation. You unplug." Like literally, that's what I was like. That would ironically make more sense than what they're doing right now, because none of it made sense at all. Because in the books, which I know they're not following, but in the books, they're trying to hold it open. It
Mhm.
disappears, but then it reappears.
Yes.
Somebody else caused it to reappear. She didn't cause it to reappear.
No, I think it's still Nynaeve that forces it to reappear by sheer willpower or whatever.
'Cause
But
that's
not
how
like,
Terraria works.
yeah, I don't know how that works. It's magic, okay?
Well, it's channeling actually. But
No, but from reading the
Because-
segment, I
Well,
got the impression that it was Nynaeve that forced it to reappear.
I'm gonna look it up now.
Maybe it's the creator
my hand, good sir.
interfering. Okay.
I don't-
While you look it up, let me
So you
also
haven't managed-
point out the whole thing with, of course, in the beginning of the what could have been, she leaves the White Tower and meets Lan sort of in that bit, right? And then
Yeah.
several fucking years pass in the Terangrial world,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure entirely whether there was a time difference, but she spends at least probably 5 to 8 years in Terangrial world to get to the point where her daughter grows up to the size that she is, right? So she's in there and then comes back, of course, without everyone, because everyone got murdered. Which, is a thing.
Coincidentally,
But then it makes no sense if she goes back, remembers what was in that world, and then
Mhm.
also remembers exactly what was going on from her viewpoint several fucking years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah,
It's
sounds about right.
it just I can't really imagine what they were thinking. Except maybe
I can
nothing.
imagine they weren't.
No, it's a good thing you can't imagine what they were thinking.
Oh, here's the testing. Okay. She's going through. Oh, let's go. I'm gonna go back to the beginning.
Back to Genesis.
Oh, here we go. The testing. So they get into the chamber. They say it's a tier Angreals. They do many things. Angreals, blah 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 blah. The Shiriam's smiling pleasantly. What is it? Blah blah blah. Go into one arch and out another 3 times through, and it's done. And they kind of like, well, if you wish to boil it down that far, yes. I told you on the way here that you must know about the ceremony as much as anyone is allowed to know beforehand. If you are a novice, come to this, you would know it by heart, but don't worry about making mistakes. I will remind you if necessary. Are you sure you're ready to face it? If you want to stop now, I can still write your name in the novice book. She's like, no. It's like, very well, 2 things, blah, blah, blah. So they go to the whole thing. She gives the Silver Arches a look. The light in them no longer flickered. They were filled with a soft white glow. To learn what she wanted. I'm trying to remember the part where they actually channeled into it. Because they don't. I'm
yeah,
not
no, they
seeing-
channel into it definitely to open it. But
Yeah,
maybe
we'll say
because
three
the way
rounded
back
silver
will
arches,
appear
each
only
just
once.
tall enough to walk under, sitting on a thick silver rings with their ends touching each other. Arches and the ring were all of one piece.
Yeah. So they were
Could not
indeed
see the
supposed to
side.
be in sort of a
It said
triangle.
the light
right?
flickered oddly and made her stomach flutter if she looked too long. Where the arch touched the ring, and Aes Sedai sat cross-legged on bare stone of the floor, staring at the silvery construction. Another stood nearby, beside a plain table on which sat 3 large silver chalices. Each Nynaeve knew, or at least she had been told, was filled with clear water. All 4 Aes Sedai, 4, wore their shawls, as Sheriam did. So there's 5 Aes Sedai total with Sheriam.
Mhm. 3 to channel, 1 to
Blue
do
for the
the
Sheriam, red for
water.
the swarthy woman by the table, green, white, and gray for the 3 around the arches. Nynaeve still wore one of the dresses she had been given in Fall Dara, pale green embroidered with small white flowers. So it flickers and then it kind of like solidifies.
Mhm.
And then she goes into it. And let's skip to the end.
But the thing is supposed to appear only once, and then disappear, and not come back.
Either way,
But
whatever.
upon that happening,
Yeah.
Nynaeve goes into panic mode or whatever, and somehow it appears. I thought it was her. It seemed to me when reading
Well, see,
that
this
it was
part,
Nynaeve
they-
bringing it back by force.
She doesn't have any issues. So,
What do you mean?
well, in this one, like, there's no like I want to. That was Egwene's the one that had the issue where it disappeared and then didn't come back. There is nothing.
Yeah, no, that was a different one.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is that it wasn't Nynaeve at all.
No, Nynaeve does have the gate disappearing because she sort of maybe subconsciously wants to live in the last fantasy worlds.
Okay, she found Alan Mandragoran, King of Malkier. She's like, don't call me that. I cannot
Egwene's
marry you."
malfunctioned, of course, because of the Dream Terangriel.
Yeah. And she's like, Queen, we have babies, blah, 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 blah. She's going through that. And Eleanor was my mother's name, all that jazz. And then she's like, the trees hidden before the way, or she saw a silver arch. The trees hidden before the way will come back but once. So she turns to it. She's like, I gotta go. And he's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, oh, you were the very best of husbands, blah, 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 blah. I want to stay. And she's like, it's not real. Look around. The meadow's there, the 7 towers, but the arch is gone, but nothing else had changed. It's like, I have to go back, blah, blah, blah. So maybe it has to do with her acceptance of the reality she's in.
Mhm.
So if she's
Yeah,
like,
I think it's that.
because
And then at the very end, it reappears again because she wants to go back.
but
because
from
this
the
isn't real.
perspective of the Aes Sedai, I guess is the point of, are they still channeling into it to give it power?
Probably.
And from her side, it's supposed to just go away. So they basically took 2 pieces and put them together in a
Well,
weird
the
way.
book, the way back appeared twice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. It appears twice, but I think it's
But it's
because
supposed to come only once.
it's only supposed to come once, and I think that's because once it's like the dream world where if you accept something is real. Like I don't know if you guys remember the nightmare sequence where they
Mhm.
take the women in
Yeah.
and the Aes
And
Sedai
put them in the cookpots.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
They do all that type of stuff, and then like you have to think it's not real, and then it disappears. So I'm wondering if that's what it has to do with where this is kind of like a dream world where you enter it in physically. So you go into the dream world, and if you accept it, you stay there permanently. You come there too strongly, as Hopper would say.
Could be. I always figured it was sort of like the portal stone bit.
Well, yeah, because we know alternate realities exist, so I figured this was just how getting dumped into an alternate reality.
Same.
Yeah. She's like, there has to be a way back still. Staring at where the silver arch had been, she tried to find some trace of it. There was nothing. She tries to picture the arch in her mind, to shape it and form it to the last detail. That sounds a lot like Telai Runriad.
Could be.
Except see that they're not in that, so she has to be channeling.
But that's the thing is we don't know that she's not in Tel'aran'rhiod, because if those arches are if they're Dream Tirangrial that allow you to enter in the dream world through them, that would explain
But
a lot
you
of
can't
things.
assume that she is.
Well, I'm saying the way I have a slight more reasoning to believe she is due to the way that she
I'm not
makes that
sure-
arch come back is the same
Yeah,
way
yeah.
you would do things for Perrin in
I
the
don't
Wolf
think it
Dream.
can be Tel'aran'rhiod though, because it's supposed to be completely empty of everything.
What do you mean?
So
Completely
if you go into the dream world, right? There's only one Tel'aran'rhiod, right? We can agree on that, maybe.
More or less, yes. But you also
Yes.
remember that
So
the
if
different people who
Nynaeve
enter
is
it
in
have different
Tel'aran'rhiod, dreaming up the entirety of Malkia, and someone else goes into Tel'aran'rhiod and comes across Malkia, that
Well, you're also leaving out a couple things. One, when Perrin enters the dream world, it's not empty. It's got fields, it's got rolling grass.
yeah,
there's
it's got terrain,
It's-
sure, but no people.
yes. Directly, no.
Except for those who
But
accidentally
but
find themselves.
we're also leaving out what do the arches act like? How do the mechanics behind the arch actually work? We
Mhm.
don't know.
We don't know.
We just know that they use them in a particular way. So, what I can picture in my head, which could be a reasonable option, I mean, I'm not saying it's guaranteed correct or anything,
Mhm.
but the theory is that when you go through, it essentially scans your memories, and then it kind of builds them as you enter in, and then it's saying, okay, this one is based upon this. This is a past thought. Here's a present thought, and here's a future thought. If each of the rings does that thing,
No memory.
it'll essentially simulate the thing that you're going into for your dream world, and then it treats it like a dream, like how they have the bubbles and the little lights and everything when people are sleeping. It creates that, but locks you in with this arch being the only way in and out.
Yeah, okay. I can see
So
that.
if you're a Tel'aran'rhiod and
But
you
then it's
solidify that the
dream,
arch
not-
is there, like the arch is here, here's the arch, and you go through all the details, because that's how you make things happen in Tel'aran'rhiod.
So
Like you can stop Balefire because it's just a weave.
the
It's not a
reason
big deal.
the reason I don't agree with that interpretation is because for it you're looking for things to make like why it would be Tel'aran'rhiod. You're trying to make it fit that sort of logical construct. Whereas
There's
I'm
no other
assuming,
explanation.
assuming that they've walked into a door empowered by the one power and told there's only one time she's going to get out. That's all we know.
Well, we know that there are multiple Tirangrial that are related to the dream world.
But we
We know
just
that they,
we don't know
they
this-
have
But we
one of
don't
them that,
know that
we don't
parallel
know
universes
one of those.
exist.
huh?
The portal stones go to other realities. We know that.
Well, yes, but they're
So
literally
it could
entirely
be
different.
related.
But in that situation,
don't know
why
that,
would
though.
Lan be saying she's the Nynaeve he married? There should be two Nynaeves technically in that world. She doesn't replace. She would be in addition to if that was another world. Because it's a
Could be.
multiverse
Yeah.
situation. So if Spidey goes into another Spider-Verse, there's two Spideys of the same type now. There's two Peter Parkers.
Is that
There's not
how?
only one.
Hmm,
Because a multiverse,
that brings up
it's-
some questions. Yeah.
you
How
entering
does
into a
the
multiverse.
that 90 in that world died, or there's a lot of logic around it. You could,
But here's the thing: is Lan recognized that she's alive. He wouldn't have been like, "How can this be?" He
Yeah,
just
yeah, no,
petty
but
run up
maybe
like,
maybe the
he's recognizing.
Terangrial puts them in the body of the other person.
So it's more
I
of a
don't know.
spirit thing.
Could be, yeah. I don't know.
Again, that's a theory, but I feel like mine has a little bit more basis due to the fact that we have Dream Tirangrial. I'm trying to remember her name, the lady who was studying them all. Starts with a C, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cordana or what? I don't remember her name.
And
but,
Aes Sedai.
And Aes Sedai.
Aes
She
Sedai
had
number 5,
a whole
maybe.
horde of Dream Tirangrial that were related to the Dream World, but they had different effects. How they would get you in, what they would do, that kind of stuff. Like they were different. Like the hedgehog that catches Fael, it's technically a Dream Tirangrial that locks you in the Dream World in a place. But its specific effect is to trap you there, where
Yes.
you yourself can't get out. Somebody else has to get out instead. So that is a Dream Tirangrial that has a specific function and focus that none of the other ones can possibly do.
But it does have a tangible presence in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yes. There's a tangible representation of the Silver Arches as well. They are there. You see them. You know when to go back.
Yeah, no, but all the people.
give you a whole another
also in there.
interpretation here. Okay, my simple interpretation is that It's a Terran empowered by the one power, and only outlaws the one power because Nynaeve is ridiculously powerful. But if you want to go into a further explanation, this is a Jordan influence thing. The term Aes Sedai comes from Celtic folklore. It really means the people of the mound. Okay, how do you go into the mounds in folklore? You walk through doors that you can't come out of if you participate in anything inside it. So if you're a human and you walk into a fairy mound to an open door, and you even ate one thing in there, if you spent some time there, you could not come out. Your only opportunity to come out
because you solidify your belief in what's happening, which means you solidify that world in which you enter. Which is what you do.
But if it's in Tel'aran'rhiod and there's been several novices missing from the thing, then they should be having fun in Tel'aran'rhiod, right?
Well, the thing is, it's different
Maybe.
per each one. Works. Well, no. Every single woman goes in. It's based upon, and even the Aes Sedai state that it's based upon their fears, their hopes, whatever it might be, depending on the arch you're going through.
Yeah.
So if you're going into an arch, they're using one of your memories or whatever it could be. Whether it's like this is what happened, like Egwene having.
By that logic, it can only be Tel'aran'rhiod adjacent and not fully Tel'aran'rhiod.
Well, but the thing is we see Tel'aran'rhiod in multiple ways. We see it when people are dreaming. We see it from people who are dream walkers. We see it from the people who are the ones who are falling and disappear. We see multiple different ways. We also see nightmares.
But it's all in the same place.
It's in the same plane of existence universe.
If two people are dreaming of the same location, they will always see each other.
No, not always. Because if you are having a dream and yours, well, because there's dreams and then there's actual dreams. Actual dreams, if you enter into someone else's actual dream,
but I'm specifically talking about Tel'aran'rhiod. So only dreams that put you in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Are you talking about like somebody who's sleeping and you enter their dreams?
Or I'm someone sleeping and they transport their self, whatever ghost spirit, to the dream world. Not their own dream, but the actual Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yes, but typically Dreamwalkers, think of it like a backstage. The Dreamwalkers are in the backstage and they see how all the mechanisms and everything work. They see all the lights that are people's dreams. They see the nightmares that are growing. They see all these types of things. It's not that a person who's dreaming about a football game is going to be in the same dream with somebody who's a football.
You have the Tel'aran'rhiod and people have their own dreams and they're in separate sort of dimensions maybe. So that means, but they're different, right? In your own dream, you can't die if you get hurt, for example.
You wake
if you go,
unless there's a force outside of your dream, outside in the backstage of Tel'aran'rhiod that ends your life.
No, you have to.
I don't think that works.
Remember, Baal Zaman tells the guys, like, you failed me in Tar Valon, and the guy wakes up dead. He kills the guy in.
Yeah, but does he bring him in Tel'aran'rhiod, not his own dream?
It would. I don't recall the exact specifics because he had, I think, 4 people there, so he might have brought them. But the way Hopper described it, was as how much of yourself is there. Like he says, you are here too strongly, Young Bull, meaning that anything that happens to Young Bull in the dream will happen to him in real life. If he gets a nick, it's going to be there in the morning when he wakes up. If you're there in like the brinks, like it's the side eye little type of thing, then it's not going to do anything to you. You'll just wake up because it's a nightmare. But if it's something where you're there in fullness, like the Aes Sedai were with Nynaeve and Egwene and stuff, and they were trying to teach them, and they got trapped in the nightmare, they believed it, therefore it was true. And that was my point, is that the arches kind of do that kind of a thing, where they put you in a scenario based upon a memory or a hope or an emotion, whatever. It's probably emotions is probably the way to think it. They mix your emotions with your view of reality. And then when you go in, it's locked to you. No one else can access your pocket. It's your own little pocket plane of existence. But it's built around whatever emotion and memory you have attached to it. You have a thought of, oh, I want to save Egwene, but I can't do it, blah, 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 blah. So you do something, and then you go the other direction. You get out of that. Oh, I'm terrified that the Forsaken will catch me and use me for whatever nefarious plan he has. These are all different things that happen through an emotion and a memory. Memories of the Forsaken, an emotion of fear or whatever that lures them into it. That thing happens, they're locked into it. But everything that happens more so when they accept it. When they don't accept it, they're like, I don't actually live here, therefore I can like, how do you say it? What is it?
Lady Bellfire is live already. She's been live for 45 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
45 minutes.
yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Oh,
And you're still here?
that's not 3 p.m.
Yeah, well, yeah, I
Right.
was going to say 3 p.m. my time is in half an hour.
Apparently,
So
she started early.
clearly.
Uh,
Yeah,
Needless to say,
we got
from what I-
sidetracked
from
a
what I-
bit by Terranio. The whole point was the essence is missing. The point was supposed to be choose between a perfect fantasy or the imperfect reality, and we got none of that.
well,
At
you're
the
supposed to do what you're quote unquote honor bound to do. Like, you have responsibilities in reality. Are you going to just leave them behind
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a flippant world?
But that's why
or-
you
Yeah.
go for imperfect reality
So
Yeah.
because it's
Mhm.
real.
that was my number 5, right? And I'll give you another reason
How
why.
dare you steal it, Sage?
Another reason why it sucked totally. So remember we were talking about this when I did the first fake out where she rode out of the city and met Land, and we're like,
Mhm.
oh, that's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of pretty nifty. We got a little fake out there. They did it reasonably
Mhm.
well, and then they turned into a double fake out and a triple
Yeah,
fake.
they
I left
drag
the
it
whole
on for
episode.
forever.
And like all the good work that they did, the horrible writing basically undid. You know.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
whole time skip point, let's say.
It'll do it. What's your next one, good sir?
Yeah, so that's number 1 done. Rand's whole situation in Carrion, where he's supposed to be in an inn getting letters and burning them one by one, and then escalating the whole Deus Dama situation.
Technically, he wasn't staying in the Foregate at that time either. So
Yes. It's just he's not
There's a lot of
supposed to
problems.
immediately go to a party of, say, very influential people and then get a letter there. The point is that he's getting the letters and seems mysterious because he burns them, which then makes the other people interested in him, because surely if he's burning those letters, his backer must
He's
be
got-
very influential indeed.
he has a lot of powerful allies.
Exactly.
It goes all the
But
way-
no, in the show, Celine just does
has all the
her
connections.
thing, exactly, and just immediately throws him into a big shot party where he talks with Moraine's sister, I think that was. Of course, the age
No,
is
she
completely
wasn't. She
wrong.
wasn't in a damage red.
No, that's unfair, I think. Right? The subtitles said so, at least.
Well, when she introduced herself, she was not a damage red.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would have grabbed my attention. Trust me. But
She did not.
I was pretty sure myself that was supposed to be unfair damage red.
It was Lady Dulce or something like that. It started
they
with
might,
a D.
this could have been a part where they mixed.
Maybe that was a
names
fake
and
name.
Houses. Well, they probably mixed names and houses like they did for a whole bunch of other characters.
Could be.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It was
I'm not saying
definitely
her name wouldn't be unfair,
but maybe it's
but
not damage red.
I don't believe she was a damage red because she did not. When she said something, I was like, I'm not picking up anything. Like I should know who this is.
Could be wrong
And
there.
damage red's a very well known Kyrian name.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you would know.
No, that's true. But that's not essential to my reason for picking it.
I just
It's
thought
the
it was funny how
whole
Lanfear is this
slowly
lady who lives up-
escalating situation that we
Lanfear's
miss.
this lady who runs an inn in the, in the Foregate. Sorry. Lanfear runs an inn in the Foregate, but dresses like she owns a palace in the inner city.
Mhm.
And she can go to parties. No lord worth their salt would be caught dead with anybody from the Foregate showing up.
Exactly. Yeah, I
They are
have
very
several
much
Lanfear
snobs.
related things on my list, on my backup
bet you
list.
do.
That's bigger. But there were other things that I thought were more
Well, what else you
terrible.
got? So we can kill off some stuff so we can get
Yeah.
Matt to.
Loyal's interaction with the Xianchen, how he got
Good.
treated,
Oh,
and
The
and
non-interaction.
his I don't know, he suddenly becomes like a big monster guy. Exactly. The Xianchen are supposed to treat him with respect because he's an Ogier and they have very good status in the Empire.
They're literally all the Ogier are literally in the Death Watch Guard. They're literally
Exactly. But
they're one of the
also have
Emperor's
several
loyal
Xianchen
retainers,
related
and
stuff.
they're
on
not
there.
considered property like all the rest of the Death Watch Guard. And I was watching that scene. If you listen to my 1 hour rant when I did the separate one, I think I was yelling at the screen, like would the Empress would be happy with what you're doing here now, Sora?
Mhm.
Well, it's also like they've never seen an Ogier before. I was like, are they going to even use Ogier? I'm guessing they're not
Who
using
built
Ogier.
Hawkwing Cities, Sora? Who built Hawkwing Cities?
Well, they're going to sidestep.
They
that
don't
because
care about that.
They don't care. So
They don't.
it's already hard enough for them to make one Ogier. Try making a whole army of them.
Exactly. And if they all look as ridiculous as Loyal, then
Well,
I would
they would
prefer
look
if they weren't.
You know who
I
Loyal
imagine
looks
it
like,
looks
by
like
the way?
Trollocs and Ogier mixed together is what I would.
You guys,
Yeah, it could be.
$6 million man. He looks like
Hmm?
Sasquatch from $6 Million Man. And I love that's my favorite TV show of all time. And I'm like, really like.
Yeah, but they
Imagine-
completely fucked up the status of Ogier in the Xianchen worldview.
Well, they didn't seem to
That's-
recognize them. They just say, "Hey, builder," or whatever they would call him,
Mhm.
and say, you remember the Empress and all that stuff, and you're like, "May she live forever," and you're like, "Not sure what you're talking about, buddy." Like, because the different Ogier settings wouldn't. Because in the books, Loyal has no interaction with the Shan at all. He's always on the other side of the world, so he never runs into
Yeah.
them. They never have the interaction.
Yeah.
Even after Matt becomes like the Shan commander in chief kind of thing, Loyal still never has any interaction. Like any of them that are on the field, I don't even think are on the same field. They're in a totally different field with all the other Ogiers. So it's like none of this makes any sense whatsoever. But that's par for the course for the series so far.
Mhm.
What else you got?
The White Tower hierarchy makes no sense in the show.
They have hierarchy.
Well, not in the show. See, that's the whole problem. For some reason, Leandrin's, of course, considered sort of the boss, maybe you could say, in some scenes. But, of course, there's the whole thing that they are 5 months there because they time skipped. And it seems also as if they are only just arrived because Nynaeve can still do nothing. Egwene, of course, has basically, she has problems with doing stuff, which I don't think took her that long in the books to figure her stuff out. But I could be mistaken there. But also the
you may be
novices,
right.
do not seem to be subservient to most people, with the exception of one scene where Egwene has to, clean up some stuff. And
Well,
they talk to the Aes
That's
Sedai
like, oh, are you here to
almost
help?
as if they are equal, but maybe slightly less so. Of course, because we see Nynaeve talk to Liandrin, and there's
Alana.
not,
Alana was another one.
and Lana is another one. Egwene just sort of goes for a house visit or whatever with Alana, and
You mean
of course
Allah?
That
then
wasn't
some
that wasn't a house
weird.
visit. That was a seduction technique, is what it was.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fair. But there is no sense of hierarchy, let's say, or less so, other than maybe
If you were
Aes
talk-
Sedai and novices are not the same, but you don't get the feeling that they're all the way on the bottom of the hierarchy.
if you were an Aes Sedai and somebody talked to you about that, you'd be like, "You're going to see Shiriam."
Mhm.
you'd be like getting smacked on a regular basis all the time. Pretty
Exactly.
much what happened with Elaine when she's like, "Tell me who did this," and it's like, "What time should I be there? Before or after breakfast?"
But
Like,
like one,
that-
I
yeah,
don't think-
exactly. No, that's
I don't think Judkins and his team.
Elaine's whole situation. She just brings all the stuff from Andor
Which would
with her,
never happen.
which she would have never been allowed if the hierarchy was properly represented, because the novices are supposed to
Well,
live with
this-
absolutely nothing.
Remember, women
Alana
don't-
walks into the kitchen to go teach them how to separate whatever was in that water from
I gotta
the
give them
water.
props. They put women in the kitchen in the show. I was
That's
not
that's true. But then also in that very same
I
scene,
really want Alana to come in and
Nynaeve
say, "Make me a sandwich."
basically just I don't know, she goes full resistance to Alana and does not get punished at all.
Yeah.
But also she's not supposed to be a novice, so that's it's just weird. It's
Well,
all
even-
messed up.
even the accepted have more free reign, but if
They
an
should
Aes
have
Sedai-
more free range,
but
yes.
if an Aes Sedai tells them to do something, they still have to
Mhm.
do it. Like it's they don't have the same, like, they're still under an Aes Sedai, but they're above a novice, and a novice is expected to know certain things, and accepted is closer to an Aes Sedai. So they're trying. This is the beginning malleable stage where they're trying to take them and turn them into Aes Sedai. So they're trying to give them a little bit of leeway to be like, this is how you are to be an Aes Sedai. They are Aes Sedai to the novices, but they're not Aes Sedai to the Aes Sedai.
Yes. It's I thought the one thing they would do correctly would be the White Tower and its internal
Yeah.
politics.
No.
But
They were definitely
No,
going
they-
to make it sound better to the thing that they wanted it to.
yeah.
Ragnar
Anyway.
took a look at the Dutch hierarchy, quote unquote, and then managed to corrupt even that.
You know, hierarchies are patriarchal.
That's true.
Except in a matriarchy where it's the woman who's in charge, that it's a hierarchy by default.
And you know who?
No, they're all supposed to
Tower,
be equal.
Who
right?
doesn't appear in
That's-
all 3 episodes?
You wouldn't have a queen then.
Speaking of the hierarchy of the White Tower, you know who doesn't appear in all 3 episodes?
the
Juan?
Evelyn.
Cad Swain.
Also, maybe she's not supposed to be there.
Van
That's
G.
one is supposed to be off somewhere doing her own thing. So that's perfectly reasonable.
Van Bean doesn't exist.
She's probably busy scissoring Alana in the background, you know.
Could be.
Probably.
I couldn't quite see all the people involved in that one moment, so maybe she was there.
Considering would have been aimed the other direction, so it makes sense.
And that also brings me straight into point 5. There's sex everywhere. In the dialogue, in the background scenes, it's all about sex. And
Very heavy.
that's
dialogue.
completely antithetical to what Robert Jordan wrote in the
You're
books.
just a
Sure,
pure
there are some.
typical conservative traditionalist.
Yeah,
Sage.
whatever.
I
But
gotta say that did annoy me. That was in my top 5. In terms of like, we didn't like. I get that they're trying to make the Game of Thrones.
yeah, they're going for the Game of
It
Thrones
wasn't the
situation.
It wasn't the sex or the sex dialogue in of
Mhm.
itself that bothered me. It was that it didn't push any story, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of ugly people in there.
It's just in there for its own sake, really,
It's in there to
and maybe to shock
seem-
people.
it's trying
or
to make it
something.
seem mature. This is a mature show because we have
Mhm.
sexual content in it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about all the fancy stuff. Like, Rafe has this wet dream about turning the White Tower into a lesbian paradise,
Yep.
whatever. But
I'm betting they
none
will
of
do
that
this
has anything
to
do with the
Elaine and Egwene as
story.
well.
there's nothing to do with the story. Like, it
Mhm.
does not push the Dragon Reborn. It doesn't push Perrin. It doesn't push Matt. It doesn't push any of the girls' stories. Like, it doesn't push it. It's a detail that says,
Yeah.
hey, a bunch of girls are trapped in an area where they can only ever spend time or see it with a bunch of girls.
Mhm.
And they get lonely and they do lonely stuff with somebody else. And then therefore they have a relationship that when they quote unquote graduate, they kind of like, they stay friends, but they don't continue on that relationship. That's why they're called pillow friends, not pillow relationships. They do it and then they get out of it and then they move on with their lives. Like,
Yes.
it's not vital to the story. It doesn't push the story, but it is a piece of world building that
I
lets
mean,
us
I'm
know
not
that
opposed
happened,
to a
just not that it was
few
there.
sex scenes in there because that could be done well.
Well, like that's what I said. I'm not against the sex scenes.
They put
I'm
it in
against the
here
main-
to the point of being cringe, right? It's over the top everywhere in every single dialogue line. There's innuendos in all of it, every scene almost, and it just gets tiring.
Every time a woman is the main character of the scene, there was a sex dialogue.
Yes. Mhm.
Like, I mean, this is like watching The Office and hearing a "That's What She Said" joke literally every 10 seconds.
Exactly.
It's like it's funny the first couple times, but it gets really old.
It
really
gets old really quickly, yeah.
quick. But
That's what
like,
she said.
thank you, Terry. I always count on you. Um, but like a scene that would be perfect for a sex scene that actually pushes the story is Elaine and Rand, where Elaine gets pregnant.
Mhm.
Because it pushes the story. We know that she has to have babies. Having her just show up being pregnant would make no sense. Like, well, who's the dad? Who's this? But showing that it was Rand that did it would make sense. I'm not saying I'd want it to be shown, but I'm saying that would at least make sense if you're going to have a sex scene. It would actually have something to do with the story.
Exactly. But
it's-
this doesn't, and it's just terrible. What can I say? Anyway, those were my 5 points. I had a few more, but yeah,
Matt, you're up.
other people
what
also
do you
need a
Matt,
chance, I guess.
Number one. Okay.
Ken Swain.
Number one. If you add up the amount of time Rand is on screen in all 3 episodes, right? And let's call that 10 minutes, but I'm just for the sake of argument, it's more than that.
Mhm.
And you average the amount of time Nynaeve was on screen in any episode, she has more time in every episode on average than he has for all 3 combined.
Well, it's because she's more important.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Egwene and Moraine.
Well, I mean,
I think Varen had more screen time than Rand.
I'm betting that Josha said, "I'm not renewing my contract is up." This shows deprioritizing my
I
character.
saw that comment on White Clicks.
So do what you will, and I'm betting Rafe is trying to shift Nynaeve to be the main character. I'm betting my dollar on that.
Yeah, but without
That could
the guy that they already confirmed is the Dragon Reborn in the first season,
but did they?
how are you gonna?
Did they really?
He said, "I am the Dragon Reborn." They went.
But
and did
that
the
could
thing.
be
Yeah, but
The
a
Dark One.
five-headed
affirmed
dragon.
He was the
the dragon could
Five-handed?
be reborn.
Five-headed dragon, right?
mean,
That was one
five-headed?
of the
You
things.
You said five-handed, and I was like, "What's a
No,
five-handed?"
no, headed. It sounds
Did
similar.
say added.
Dragon can transfer his dragonness to Nynaeve. That's
Mhm.
joking about that.
If the dragon has 5 heads, then it could work.
They've already
Maybe.
announced that Nynaeve is too old. Moraine had already said that. So
But
Moraine's
she
already
could be
announced that it
wrong because
but,
not all
she
the
could be.
prophecies.
So could Rafe, but we know Rafe is wrong.
True.
We have proof.
Yeah,
but Rafe, no, and I'm
But they already put doubt in the prophecies in season 1.
Okay.
so
Well, what else you got, Matt?
de-emphasizing Rand was number one. Number two, which we talked about beforehand, the opening for every season should be the wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving the whole Robert
Mhm.
Jordan's opening. That's
Mhm.
the
And then
first
the
two-
wind
there
comes
was a
from the
phone call.
mountains.
First
It
season,
was a
yeah.
beginning,
Yes.
but not the beginning, whatever.
Number three, they done our boy Uno wrong.
I
Yeah,
knew that
wow.
would come up.
Okay, full-on spoiler for the books, guys. If anyone listening to this, Uno becomes a captain by the end of the series. One of the great captains. Okay, when blah, 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 is compulsed and dies.
Agomar?
Burn.
Wait.
Or are you talking about the wolf?
No, what's his face? He becomes. He dies. Gabriel Byrne. He gets compelled and he dies. I for the exact.
Fail's dead?
What? No?
And Uno
I don't think so, at least.
place. Okay,
Well, Fail's parents die in the last battle.
so
There's
Uno.
the guy from Arad Daman, the wolf. There's Agomar.
You have Rodo
Adrian Nile.
Ituralde.
Ituralde, yeah. Ituralde's from Arad Daman.
Gareth,
You've got
Gareth.
Agomar.
Gareth Byrne. He
Bryn?
gets
Gareth Bryn?
Yeah, he gets compelled at one
Oh, I
point.
called
and
him
dies.
Gareth
All,
Bryan.
all of the great captains get compelled. That's why that goes to Matt.
Yeah,
Because
the
Matt
point I'm
can't
getting
do
is Uno gets a promotion. He's had a big role at the end, and
Yeah.
apparently his role now is to suck down a giant spike in it. I mean, He's just done
Don't-
wrong. He's just
don't-
done wrong.
Nynaeve will find him and she'll bring him back to life. It'll be fun.
Yes.
Or
Uh,
they'll do what they did last season, which is one of mine, which I might as well ruin it since we're running a long time. Since everyone came back to life magically anyway, like they literally transitioned a whole bunch of dead people at the end of season 1. We're in season 2. They're all just walking around doing stuff. We're like,
yeah.
how did this happen? Don't
Uno
know.
was so manly, the spike couldn't kill him. That's what they'll. You
The
know,
thing is-
how can you kill me?
They made Uno emotional. He's never been emotional. He was the one saying, "Keep your heads on." Like, don't just behave
Yeah, and he
Massima-
lost his head.
Massima's the emotional one, but in this case, Massima's the logical one, and Uno's the emotional one. And it's like
That's because
they're
they need
separating
Massima
souls
to
from their
become the
families.
prophet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: they're saying you have these girls being separated from their families. That's all that's happened. No one's been killed. No one's been raped. No one's been anything. Like, it's literally just they're being separated into section categories. You got the men on one side, the women on the other side. That's all that's happened.
So okay.
Let's kill them all with a knife. And it's like, but why? You can wait for an opportunity when they're sleeping or something, sneak out, slit a couple throats, go around and do stuff. But he's not thinking clearly because Uno can't make good decisions in the show.
Yeah. So number 4, it's a very specific scene. It's that whole sequence where Shorain rejects Lan, starts scaring him off, gets on a horse, then rides out of Baron and Annalise's house. Right. Happens to go to the exact spot. You have to go 700 route paths you can take. It's the exact spot that the Fates happen to be going to. You know.
Yeah, but she can't know that because she can't feel the fates anymore.
No,
Right.
I'm not. You're missing. Like they weren't looking. Like it's like
They were ambushing her.
Mhm.
yeah. That was such a randomly contrived sequence of events. It was preposterous the way they did it. That was my main.
But
part
she's
of that.
so boss. She stabbed a Murdrell in the throat when he popped his head out of the shadow in the rock.
Was it in the throat?
Yeah, it was in the
Because
throat.
to my may
It
have
was like
misseen
right
it.
there.
I thought it was sort of here.
No, it was like
But-
right here.
So
Okay.
that's secondarily preposterous.
Maybe that's the difference between turning your arm or
She's
whatever.
all of a sudden a professional dagger killer person thing. Like
Mhm.
she knows
Yeah,
how to. Like, I'm getting
No,
like
that's
you have a
because,
dagger, if you strike out of
All the
fear.
backstabbing Game
Yeah.
of House stuff, right?
and
Back in Kyrie, she's over there murdering people from other houses.
Exactly. Yes.
It's
so
like-
my original number 5 got,
Kid
got
reborn.
stolen or borrowed by Sage there.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
So one of my alternates. The whole Land Fear Rand dynamic, right?
Yes.
So just get
The
into
cancer.
the psychology of this, right? So if you read what Jordan was writing, Land Fear, I don't mean, when I say she's supposed to be beautiful, I'm not just wanting to see, not wanting to see a hot chick, okay? She's supposed to be as beautiful as is humanly possible to be, okay?
She's the
And-
knockout of the century. Kind
And
of
she
thing.
knows it, but she doesn't know in a way like where she's flaunting herself sexually. She knows she's the center of attention when she walks in the room. She's like Elizabeth Taylor or Sophia Loren, that type of ethereal beauty who walk into the room and everyone goes, "Whoa," you know. And she uses that, and she's kind of draw Rand to the dark side. But I'm keeping it simple for the storyline here. And then Rand resists it not because he's world weary, but because he's a country bumpkin. He's like, if you ever watch Naruto, it just goes over his head. All the liking girl stuff totally over his head because he's still stuck in that. He's never socialized or whatever. He was prior to the point in the book
Awkward.
where he would be thinking, "I'm going to score with this hot chick." Like he wasn't meant. You know what I mean? Like that's how he resists her. You know, but by his innate sort of
Well, it was his backwater naivete that
Yeah,
saved
yeah,
him from it.
yeah.
Because
And-
he's like stammering, like, "Oh, what, I don't know what to say." Blah, blah,
Like
blah.
he's not
But
even.
if he was worldly and it was a very suave guy, or thought he was a suave guy, he might have got arrogant about it and tried to get with her, and that would have killed him.
That was the whole running dialogue in the head. Like, well, I don't know women, but Matt and Perrin do, and they would constantly say it about each other. You know,
It was a great line.
and Lanfear couldn't understand why he wasn't all over her. You know, like that was part of the psychological interplay. And at the same time, Rand is maturing as a leader. She's inadvertently helping him by encouraging him to grasp the power. But Rand's innate goodness is doing it in a good way. You know, Like,
Well, she's saying grasp power this way. He's grabbing power this way. And totally doesn't understand it.
yeah, like so that was Jordan wrote as an amazing sort of psychological interplay of two conflicting almost ideologies and leading to a positive growth for Rand and confusion and frustration for Lanfear, or Shofir, as I guess we'll call Charlene.
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing for Matt though. Like Matt in the books is like, I'm no bloody lord. You know, I hate battles. Goes into battles, saves a bunch of guys. They pledge themselves to him, and he's like,
but we haven't got,
Mhm.
we haven't got to them ruining that point in this show yet. You know?
I don't wear frilly
Oh,
stuff.
they will.
2
They
weeks later,
definitely
he's
will.
wearing frilly stuff. Like it's
So
great.
that whole Charlene Rand storyline was my replacement for the whole Rudy of Nynaeve's acceptance test, and it's everything Jordan writes in the books is amazingly better, obviously, than anything we see in the
Whose
show.
trumpets are going off?
No, that was my
Targaryens.
that was my alarm for Lady B's stream.
We'll have to
Start now, but
It's supposed to start now, but they've been going for
Yeah.
how long?
And the sound was the Shaw Brothers sound from the 1970s, the Hong Kong Shaw Brothers. I love that sound. So that's my notification sound. Anyway, so Rand Lanfear, and what makes it worse is that Rand Lanfear dynamic continues to evolve through 3 or 4 books until she loses it, so to speak. Was it book 4 or book 5 when she's like, after he had the thing with Avienda, remember he finally has sex with Avienda and she just snaps. She's like, which one of them? Like
I
all the
believe
cool is
it's-
gone.
I
It's
believe it's book. No, it'd be book 5. It'd be the beginning of book 5 because book 4 is when they just get back to Kyrian, and it was at the docks at the Kyrian when Moraine and Lanfear.
yeah. So
it'd
Avienda,
be the book beginning of book 5ish.
Avienda and someone else saw it, and Lanfear just snaps. So she just totally snaps.
Because obviously the guy she likes couldn't be a hit with the girls.
But so that's the whole. They've ruined it. No matter how they did, they were going to ruin it. But they ruined the beginning of the Lanfear Rand dynamic.
Well, we already have Rand who doesn't have a relationship with Min. It's not going to happen. We have Avienda.
Yeah, but
some point
Min's
in
going
this-
to have a relationship with Matt, so it cancels out.
No.
I don't know.
No, she's leading him on.
No.
Through Leandrid. It's not a relationship thing.
Yeah, but maybe it's like
May-
Well,
during
she's
the
already
whole
said he's like,
thing.
you can't seduce me. He's like, oh, I'm not trying to seduce you. Like the whole
Yeah,
thing.
but that's
His
exactly how you
relationship
get
will
them,
be
right?
with Leandrin.
I mean, I think Matt has a higher chance of being in a relationship with Leandra than in freaking Min at this point.
Fair enough.
But,
Fair enough.
but like, Avienda's
mean,
going to
he
show up,
is
and she's
like
going to
older
be
women, right?
not interested in Rand. And it's going to be Rand and Lanfear the entire time. Like, they're not going to
Yeah.
deviate from that. So
Elaine's
it's gonna be
also
a weird
probably
deal.
not going to go together with Rand, but because she will have Egwene, right? And
She'll
then
be the
Unfortunately.
Nynaeve replacement or whatever.
Well, if Nynaeve replaces Rand, then she could have 3 wives. There you go.
I mean, you stay in the tower, you just got a harem of women. So
exactly.
Yeah, Alana will properly mentor Nynaeve, and she'll have 17.
So
I
we
mean,
need to
when-
somehow
when
fit
Nynaeve-
Avienda in there.
when Nynaeve becomes an Aes Sedai, she'll just lure the novices in and have sexual relations with them because that's what all the Aes Sedai do apparently.
Yeah.
She'll have her own harem of novices.
I just thought about this. Did someone read about what's her face Grendel and decide to replace Alana with Grendel's character?
Could be. Could be.
Now that you mention it,
Maybe.
Think about that.
that actually does make sense. Sadly,
Yeah.
And if you then merge that with Messana, you'd have the Forsaken hiding in the White Tower.
yeah, you have
It
the
makes
Forsaken
perfect
hide in
sense
the
now.
White Tower that controls people and has their own little menagerie of people. Why don't we add to that? She's also a sadist, so now you have what's her face that takes over the Shan Shan.
I mean, we need to somehow reduce the Forsaken to manageable levels, right?
The
the
one
most
of
powerful
the
of all women.
Xianshan.
But then
was
Alana's
more
going to
of
be
a
doing this all from the
scientist.
shadows, so she's also freaking the spider.
Mogedion?
So,
Yeah.
Mogedion. She's Mogedion. What's the freaking one who cuts off Rand's hand? Forgets his name.
Ooh.
I'm drawing a blank. She's the one who's the
Semirog?
doctor.
Or
Semirog.
however you pronounce
So
that.
it'd be Alana is Grendel, Messana, Semirog, and Mogedion all in one. because she has the luscious lifestyle. She
Mhm.
has her pets, aka her warders, and
Mhm.
the assumedly the novices that she suckers in. Then you have her hiding in plain sight, Moghedian, and Masana,
But
who's in the
also
White Tower.
Messana.
But then she's also a sadist, so she's also Semirog. That's how you
Yeah.
squish them all into one character.
Exactly. And then you have Lanfear on the side as a
Reed's
different
over there
character.
watching the show right now, going, "How did they find him?"
Yeah.
It's like it's easy to tell.
Rafe is tearing up his scripts now. Ah, those bastards.
Just for that, you questioners, I'm gonna make all the characters gay. You know,
They're going to be the
Well-
gay canon, and Matt's going to be the gay emperor of the gay canon.
although I figure out is like he'd probably see this as like, you know what? Just because Matt's there, I'm adding 2 Cat Swains to this show.
There'll be a little arm. She'll have a power to replicate herself, and I'll just die. Like she'll have like, what's the power? Who the X-Men when you hit him, the multiple man. They hit him and like just spawn multiple copies, or like Naruto with the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and you'll see like I'll just die on screen.
Flops over. All right. Well, we can go ahead and kind of close it out here, so you can get to your.
Well, give your 5.
You guys kind of covered my 5. I had other ones, but mine are so minute. It would be another freaking 3 hours for me to go through mine. But since
Okay,
everything's
let's do
being
some
questioned-
honorable mentions real quick.
I think they're winding.
Lan's emotional stuff.
Who?
Lan's whole emotional arc.
Oh, Lance
That's
been
fucked.
assassinated. 10
You mean
times.
no
Yeah.
emotionals at all?
Mm-hmm.
No,
By the
like,
way,
he's being,
Daniel
he's being
Henney-
extremely emotional.
The
Yeah,
Xiantian strategy for getting people to swear their oaths. Absolutely ridiculous. Random
Swear your
Logain had
oaths,
the
mate.
mental asylum in
I'm
Faerun.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the assassination of so many characters, the killing off of
Mhm.
so many characters. Don't take a project if you're not willing to invest in the characters that actually have a part in the series. Like that's
Exactly.
the shortened gist of it. I mentioned the ones about characters like all the guys from the killing scene in the throne room in Faldara.
Mhm.
Everybody just who's dead is now just alive. No explanation.
And some of them are dead again.
Some of them are dead again, which they'll be alive next season because why not? Like
Mhm.
no one's ever truly gone. So it's like it's. I mean, we're in lightsaber don't kill anybody stages at this point. Like
Mhm.
there's-
Another big one
there's too
could be
many
the whole
issues.
mental asylum. Like, what the fuck were they thinking there?
Well, we have to have an Asmodean character. Logain is obviously the only one option, but then he's basically like, you can't, and then that's it. Like,
Yeah,
that's
if
I mean, he's correct. You can't hold back the
Yeah.
power.
If they're
Well,
going
but
to
Eventually
he
you will
didn't
prevail.
say like here, like Matt or Rand didn't say how do I control it. But even if he knew how to like tell him, he doesn't have access to show him how to do it.
Mhm.
Like Asmodean at least had a little bit of trickle to where he could show the weave being put into place.
Yeah.
But it wasn't powerful
Exactly.
enough to do anything with.
But don't worry, he's getting healed soon enough, I guess. Again,
Yeah,
I
it'll
think
happen.
at least. Who knows? Maybe this season.
But yeah, let's go ahead and close it out. I don't want to make you guys late, and it's like 3 minutes until that hits.
our stream is like 78 minutes in, so we'll see what we can get to.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone's expecting you to show up at a certain time. So, but anyway, yeah, we'll go ahead and
We're
close
just
it out here.
fashionably late.
But I will give you one final one from my alternate list, which is bigger than you think, right? So we're introduced to Elaine Trakan, the daughter heir of Andor, one of the powerful challengers in centuries. And what is the first thing we learn about her personality? She can make illegal brew on the side.
Yeah, I don't think she would know how to do that.
Well, you also
If
remember
take
that
look accurate.
making a legal brew was a man's trade, so now we have to make it a woman's trade.
Like, what is your writing logic? Let's pretend the Wheel-Time books never existed.
Well,
No, it's
first off,
because
I'm
we
gonna
need to
stop
do
you there.
modern
stop
modern
you there.
audiences.
You're assuming they're using logic for this.
like the daughter heir of Andor, the central kingdom, arguably outside of what Rand establishes in the Aiel. And that's the first thing that she bakes a little.
Yep.
No, we need to play into the modern audience trait of being heavily dependent on alcohol.
That sounds right. I mean, you need it if you're going to be gay with a bunch of orders. So.
Exactly. Yes,
Anyway,
it's hedonism. That's it. That's
yeah.
what we have got in here.
So in order to go support Lady Balefire, we'll go ahead and stop it here, and I'll probably see you guys over there as well. But thanks everybody for watching. If you'd like to leave a comment or whatever, that'd be cool. Like, subscribe, share. That's fun. I don't make money off of this, so it's not going to kill too much. But I would like to get up in subscribers so we could share our presence a little bit more. But I'm not going to force nobody to do that. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and remember, walk in the light, my friends.
Walk in the light.